Welcome to the Inner Entrepreneur Podcast. This is the Inner Mentor Series. 20 years ago, I hated my business. I was successful, but I was miserable on the inside. And my days were filled with pressure, stress, anxiety, and I hated Mondays. I really didn't realize how bad it had become until I got a call one day from a friend who was taking a group of people over to do a Tony Robbins weekend. And he rang me and said, "Hey, Paul, why don't you come on this weekend? And do you know when you know you need something, but you don't know quite what it is you need, or you don't even know that you need it yet?" And when he rang me, I thought to myself, yeah, I need to get away. I need to go somewhere. I just need to get out of this, get out of my head, get out of the situation and just experience something new and just see what I can learn. So without hesitation, I said, book me in. I'm going. I booked my flights, my accommodation. We'd only 2 weeks before the event and off I went to London. I was so busy at the time. I did no research into the event. So I really didn't know what I was letting myself in for. I just got on a plane and went. Landed there about lunchtime on the Friday, entered this theater full of 10,000 people, this auditorium. I was shocked by the amount of people in the room. And Tony Robbins came on the stage. He's an impressive, engaging speaker. And then I realized that day one was a firewalk. And I'm sitting there thinking, what in the hell have I gotten myself into? I am not walking on fires. Behind him on the screen, he had this mega image of hot burning coals and bare feet walking across them. But I'd flown all the way to London. I was there and I thought, well, let's just see how the day goes. We spent the day in visualization and lectures and repeating mantras, preparing ourselves for the firewalk. And at 9 p.m. that evening, I did my first firewalk. It was an incredible experience. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever done it, but what it did for me, the gift the firewalk gave to me was to, for a moment, take my fear down from 110% to 5%. Because if you're fearful, you can't walk across burning coals. You have to take your fear and squash it right down for the moment, and you replace that fear with incredible self-belief, and you're convinced, I can do this, and you have to be in an exhilarated state of mind to walk across those hot coals. I did it. It was amazing. I rang my wife afterwards, and I was so hyper. I was so excited that she asked me, was I on cocaine? I've never done drugs in my life and I never will. But that's how elated I was. That's how excited I was. I was this fearless man. I went to bed that night very excited and woke up the next day and back to the seminar room again with 10,000 people. And then he took us through something he calls the Dickens process. The Dickens process is quite simply 2 visualizations. The first visualization, well, maybe I'm underselling it by saying a visualization. I would call it a visceral experience. You're in a room with 10,000 people. The lights are turned down. The music is set for the mood. And you're in this room and Tony Robbins starts asking you to visualize yourself. I think it was like sitting in this glass bubble with a screen in front of you. And you took a disc out and you slotted it in, and it was the video of your life playing in front of you of the screen. And when I said the video of your life, I mean to immersing yourself in all the shit that's going wrong, all the stuff that was causing me the pressure, the anxiety, the stress. That was all presented to me on the screen. And not just to watch it, you had to experience it. So what does it feel like? Scream, shout, move, and you're in a room of 10,000 people going crazy. So you really get into the emotion of just how awful your current experience is. Then he moves you forward 5 years and he says, this is compounded year on year. It's gotten worse and worse. Now see your life in 5 years' time. This wasn't pleasant. Then we went 10, 15 and on. I took myself up to a man of 70 years of age. And my life just compounded. Everything that I didn't like, that I was hating in my life, was getting worse and worse. The misery was compounding. And so we got to the end of this, and I saw this 70-year-old man. He was old, pale, grey, and he had wasted his life. He literally was a man without soul, without passion, just a man who had wasted his life, and he was miserable. And I saw quite clearly that if I stayed on the path I was on, this was the man I would become. It was terrifying. 20 years later, I can still see that image. It's something I will never forget. It struck me to the core. But then we moved to visualization 2, and visualization 2, the disc we inserted into a planar screen, was the life we could live. If we could sort everything out today, what is the life we'd love to live? Who would we be? How would we feel? How would we talk? How would we engage with the people we love? What would we do every day? And I created this beautiful image of the Paul I wanted to be, of the life I wanted to live. It was joyful. It was inspiring. And then he said, move that forward 5 years. What does your life look like in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years? And I moved back to that man of 70 years of age, except this man had lived an incredible life. And he lived a life of purpose, a life of joy, of fulfillment, surrounded by people he loved, doing work he loved, being completely authentic and true to himself. And instead of looking back over 70 years of a wasted life, he looked back over 70 years of a phenomenal life. He was just buzzing with energy. He was an incredibly young 70-year-old man. And I knew in that moment that I was on the first path to being the grey old man, but I had a choice. And I knew it wouldn't be an easy choice, but I could step onto the second path and create this life. I was the only one that could do that. And in that moment, I decided without question that, funnily, not so much driven by the attraction of the joyful life, more driven by never ending up as this miserable old man. So I made a choice. Yeah, but important to realize that choice was the moment when my life changed 20 years ago. And I was there until the Monday and returned back to Heathrow Airport and flew back to Dublin. Over the years, I have done so much personal development, so much training. I've attended so many courses, spent an absolute fortune on myself. Best investment I've ever made. But I've been to India, across Europe, the United States. One thing remains the same. When you do a weekend like that and you have a powerful experience, you have the opportunity to change in that. Paul version 1 arrives in one of these weekends, but version 2 leaves. And version 2 of me landed back in Dublin that day. That's important to note. But what you must remember is that when you return to your family, when you return to your business, your career, that is the life that version 1 has created. And for a moment, there's a clash because your family, your business, your colleagues are expecting version 1, but they get version 2. That is very, very difficult. In fact, in my experience, it's where most people fall off the cliff edge. And they just can't follow through because it's just too difficult. But my life from that moment on changed radically to the life I live today. And several years later at dinner parties, I would regale this story of the life of the experience because it was an incredible experience. And I would show how much my life did change. After a while, my wife started pointing out that I was missing something. Because I was telling an amazing, entertaining story of success and change and growth. And she would go, but you're missing the 2 hard years that she had witnessed because she had to walk those 2 years with me. The 2 hard years after I came back. And she's right. Because I remember coming back and having a moment of asking myself, what do I do now? Like a moment of prayer and asking, what do I do now? And the answer came to me, Paul, you know what to do. You just need the courage to do it. And so when I entered back into my workplace, it was extraordinarily difficult. And what followed were about 2 years, really, really, really challenging and hard 2 years. And that's what my wife remembers. And she acknowledges the changes, but she remembers those 2 hard years. And after a while, I realized that I need to remember those too. Because had I not walked through those hard years, had I not persisted in changing a business that was miserable into a business that was joyful for me, I had to radically change the culture in my business. I had to change a lot of the people in the business. And people fought back. People tried to cause problems for me. It's a whole long story, but it was a very difficult 2 years. And the reason I share that with you is because when you learn something and you have the opportunity to change, change is sometimes chaotic. It can be painful. Other people don't like it. You have to endure. You have to be resistant. And it's not the strategies you learn, but it's the courage to persist, to become the person you were born to be. I don't like it when I listen to a podcast or read a book or attend a lecture and a speaker comes on with this smiling face and tells you how incredible their life is. Well, I'm not saying they don't live incredible lives, but it's false to present a life that doesn't have challenges, because that's just not life. I never want to present myself as perfect. I will present myself as radically changed from the man I was 20 years ago. But I'm not perfect. Nobody is. We're all growing. We're all learning. I face challenges in my life just like you do. Don't think that there's a point in life where there will be no challenge, where there will be nothing that you resist or that cause you fear, anxiety. That will never happen. I have never known a human being for it to happen to. But you can make your life radically better, and you can become radically stronger or more deeply connected to a peace inside you, to a way of living that makes the challenges you face in life, well, you're just much more ready for them. I love what Keith Cunningham said, and I studied a lot under Keith Cunningham. He talks about the process of mastery. And the goal is not perfection. The goal is not to become a master or create the perfect life, but the goal is mastery. And mastery is when you are always learning and always growing. And if you've listened to my podcast, you know that I'm an obsessive learner. My life is filled with learning, growing. Every time I learn and grow, my life becomes better. Often sometimes that better is external, and often it's just a deeper knowing of myself, of who I am. It's why I do this work. It's why I share this. I just want to leave you with one thought as we come to the end of the first of the Inner Mentor series. If nothing changes, who will I become? Take a pen and paper and ask yourself that question. If nothing changes, who will I become? Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time.